Emperor Vexthal stood on the crystal platform of the Grand Council chamber, his purple skin glowing with satisfaction. Around him, representatives from 47 star systems waited in silence. The Zirian Empire had ruled the galaxy for over 1,000 years, and today would mark another expansion of their power. Fellow citizens of the Empire, Vexthal began, his voice echoing through the massive hall. Today we address a new discovery. Our scouts have found a primitive species on the third planet of a yellow star. They call themselves humans, and they call their world Earth. The alien delegates murmured among themselves. New species were always valuable additions to the Empire's workforce. These humans show promise as laborers. The Emperor continued, they are strong, adaptable, and numerous. However, they lack advanced technology and have never left their home star system. By Imperial Decree 2847, I officially classify humanity as a labor species. They will serve the Empire as workers and servants. Cheers erupted from the assembly. The crystalline collective representatives chimed their approval. The insectoid hivemind delegates clicked their mandibles in agreement. Even the peaceful aquatic federation nodded their consent. What none of them knew was that 3 billion miles away, Dr. Sarah Martinez sat in a hidden facility beneath the Colorado mountains, watching their every word through intercepted communications. They think we're primitive, she said to her colleague, Dr. James Park, who was monitoring the alien transmission. Perfect. For 50 years, Earth's governments had known about the galactic civilization. Radio telescopes had first detected their communications in 1975, but world leaders had made a crucial decision: hide humanity's true capabilities while secretly preparing for contact. The Solar Defense Corps had been established in 1980, officially as a space exploration agency. In reality, it was Earth's military preparation for exactly this moment, using technology reverse engineered from crashed alien probes and advances in human engineering. They had built a fleet that surpassed anything in the known galaxy. Admiral Sarah Chen received the alert while reviewing fleet positions near Jupiter. At 45, she had spent her entire career preparing for this day. The message was simple: Code Black. Confirmed. Humanity classified as slaves by Zephyrian Empire. Prepared defensive operations. Chen activated the emergency protocols. Across the solar system, hidden bases came alive. Manufacturing facilities in the asteroid belt began final preparations. Weapons platforms concealed on Mars powered up their systems. The secret fleet of 800 warships received orders to take positions around Earth. 3 days later, the first Zahirian collection fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system. Commander Zir led 50 massive transport ships designed to carry millions of new slaves back to Empire world. His escort of 20 warships was considered more than enough to handle any primitive resistance. Beginning approach to the third planet, Zetar reported to his superiors, no signs of advanced defense systems. This should be a simple harvest operation. As the alien fleet moved toward Earth, they passed what appeared to be space debris and small asteroids. None of their sensors detected the human ships hiding within the debris field, their hulls covered with advanced stealth technology. Admiral Chen watched from her command ship as the alien fleet Approached, all units, this is Phoenix. Command, enemy vessels have entered our space with hostile intent. You are authorized to engage. The human response was swift and devastating. Ships that had appeared to be asteroids suddenly revealed themselves as heavily armed warships. The stealth technology that had hidden them was a human innovation, something the galaxy had never seen before. Commander Czar barely had time to send a distress signal before his flagship exploded. The human weapons tore through Zapirian shields as if they didn't exist. The alien ships designed for fighting other galactic species were completely unprepared for Earth's military technology. In 17 minutes, the entire Zapirian fleet was destroyed, 70 ships reduced to glowing debris around Earth's orbit. Not a single human casualty was reported. Admiral Chen opened a communication channel to the entire galaxy, broadcasting on all known frequencies. Her message was simple and direct. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Solar Defense Corps, she said, her voice calm and professional. The Zephyrian Empire has attempted to invade our home system with the intention of enslaving our people. Their fleet has been destroyed. We are transmitting the complete battle records to all galactic civilizations. The footage showed human ships moving faster than Zapirian sensors could track. It showed weapons that cut through the best alien shields like paper. Most shocking of all, it showed humans fighting with a tactical precision and ruthless efficiency that no galactic species had ever witnessed. To the Zephyrian Empire and all who serve them, Chen continued, humanity rejects your classification of our species. We will not be slaves. We will not submit to your authority. Any further attempts to attack Earth will be met with the complete destruction of your forces. The message ended with coordinates for the debris field and an invitation for any galactic power to examine the wreckage and verify the human victory. On the Zephyrian home world, Emperor Vexthal received the transmission with rage and disbelief. No primitive species had ever resisted the Empire successfully. No unknown race had ever destroyed an Imperial fleet without suffering massive casualties. Impossible, he snarled, watching the battle footage. For the 10th time, 70 ships cannot be destroyed by primitives who barely understand space flight. His military advisors remained silent. The evidence was clear, but none of them understood how it was possible. The human ships used technology that should not have existed. Their tactics followed no known pattern of galactic warfare. General Corvan, the Empire's highest military commander, finally spoke. Your Majesty, perhaps we should reconsider our approach to this species. Their capabilities appear to exceed our initial estimates. Reconsider. Vexthal's voice rose to a shriek. The Empire does not negotiate with slaves. We do not retreat from primitives. Mobilize the Grand Fleet. I want every warship in the Empire heading toward this Earth. We will crush these humans and make examples of them that will terrify the galaxy for the next 1,000 years. As the Emperor raged and planned his massive retaliation, Admiral Chen was already 3 steps ahead. Deep space reconnaissance ships had been mapping every Zephyrian world and military installation for decades. If the Empire wanted a war, humanity was more than ready to give them one. The age of galactic peace was about to end, but it would not end the way Emperor Vexthal expected. The grand fleet of the Zephyrian Empire was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. 12,000 warships from every corner of the empire converged on the staging area near Proxima Centauri. Ships of the crystalline collective floated alongside vessels from the Hivement worlds. The Aquatic Federation had contributed their best underwater combat specialists, while the Robotic Assembly sent their most advanced artificial intelligences. Emperor Vexthal stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, watching as the massive fleet prepared for the jump to Earth's solar system. Each ship represented centuries of galactic military tradition and technological development. This force could conquer 100 worlds. General Corvan reported, surely no primitive species can stand against such overwhelming power. The Emperor nodded with satisfaction. We will not simply defeat these humans, we will make their destruction so complete that no species will ever again dare to resist imperial authority. What Vexthal didn't know was that every move of his fleet was being monitored by human deep space reconnaissance ships. These vessels, no larger than fighter craft, used advanced stealth technology to remain invisible while gathering intelligence on enemy movements. Dr. Marcus Webb analyzed the incoming data from his laboratory on Earth's moon. As humanity's leading expert on alien biology and psychology, he had spent 30 years studying intercepted communications and crashed alien technology. Admiral Chen, he reported over the secure channel, we've completed our analysis of the enemy fleet composition. This is valuable intelligence. What did you find, Doctor? Admiral Chen asked from her command center. Most galactic species evolved on low gravity worlds with thin atmospheres, Webb explained. Their bones are lighter, their muscles weaker, and their reflexes slower than ours. More importantly, their military thinking is based on cooperative strategies, not the aggressive tactics humans developed through constant warfare. Chen studied the data. Earth's gravity was nearly twice as strong as most alien home worlds. The atmospheric pressure was 3 times higher. Humans had evolved in an environment that would be considered extremely hostile by galactic standards. They've never fought a species like us. She realized they don't understand predator tactics. As the Zephyrian fleet prepared to jump toward Earth, Admiral Chen was putting the final touches on humanity's response. Operation Hailstorm would not be defensive. Instead, it would take the war directly to the enemy. Captain Alina Vasquez led the first human offensive fleet beyond Sol. 500 ships hidden in manufacturing facilities throughout the asteroid belt emerged for their first combat mission. Their target was Kelm Prime, the Zephyrian Empire's primary fortress world. All ships, this is Captain Vasquez, she announced to her fleet. Today we show the galaxy what happens when you threaten Earth. Remember your training, trust your equipment, and bring our people home. The human fleet used jump technology that was far superior to anything the galaxy possessed, while Zethurian ships took hours to calculate jump coordinates. Human vessels could jump instantly with pinpoint accuracy. Vasquez's fleet appeared in the Kelm system without warning, bypassing all early detection systems. The Zephyrian defenders had 800 ships protecting their most important stronghold, but they were completely Unprepared for the human attack, battle for Kelm Prime began with electronic warfare, human ships, transmitted computer viruses that crippled enemy communications and targeting systems. Within minutes, half the Zephyrian fleet was flying blind, unable to coordinate their defense. Beginning orbital bombardment, reported Commander Lisa Torres from the heavy assault ship Vengeance, human kinetic weapons accelerated to significant fractions of light speed, struck Zahirian military installations with devastating precision. What shocked the Galactic observers was not just the power of human weapons, but the brutal efficiency of their tactics. While galactic warfare typically involved lengthy negotiations and attempts to minimize casualties, humans fought with the single-minded goal of complete victory. The Zephyrian defenders tried to retreat to the planet's surface, believing their underground fortresses would provide protection. They had not anticipated human boarding tactics. Squads of power-armored Marines launched from human ships using personal jump packs to assault enemy vessels and ground installations, the sight of humans tearing through alien defenders with handheld weapons sent panic through the Zephyrian ranks. Lieutenant Michael Harrison led a boarding party onto the Zephyrian flagship. His team moved through the ship's corridors, systematically neutralizing resistance. The alien defenders evolved for low-gravity environments could not match human strength and speed. Target the command center, Harrison ordered as his Marines used advanced cutting tools to breach bulkheads that were supposedly impenetrable. The Zephyrian admiral tried to activate his ship's self-destruct system rather than face capture. Harrison's team disabled the mechanism in seconds. Having studied Zephyrian technology for decades on the planet's surface, human forces demonstrated tactics that terrified the alien defenders. They used the planet's geography against the enemy, turning natural features into killing fields. They coordinated air and ground assaults with a precision that no galactic species had ever achieved. The siege of Kelm Prime, which military experts had predicted would last months, ended in 6 hours. The Zephyrian stronghold that had never fallen in 800 years of warfare surrendered unconditionally. Captain Vasquez stood in the Zion command center, addressing the surviving alien officers. "You have 2 choices," she said calmly. "Return every human taken from Earth and disband all slaving operations, or watch your entire empire burn around you." The broadcast of her ultimatum reached every corner of galactic space. Species that had served the Zahirian Empire for centuries watched in horror as their supposedly invincible masters begged for mercy. General Tekvar, the Zephyrian commander of Kelm Prime, could barely speak. His entire worldview had crumbled in the space of a few hours. "How is this possible?" he whispered. "You are primitives. You have no space empire. Your technology is inferior." "Our technology isn't inferior," Vasquez replied. "It's different. We designed it for war, not cooperation. We built it to win, not to negotiate." News of the human victory reached Emperor Vexthal just as his grand fleet was preparing to jump toward Earth. Reports seemed impossible to believe. Kelm Prime was the Empire's most defended world, protected by their finest military commanders. This must be some kind of deception, the Emperor insisted, but his advisors could not explain how the humans had fabricated Such detailed evidence of victory. General Corvin studied the battle. Recordings with growing dread. Your Majesty, these humans fight unlike any species we have ever encountered. They show no mercy, seek no compromise, and use tactics that we cannot counter with traditional methods. Then we will use non-traditional methods. Vexthal snarled, send word to all allied species, every military force in the galaxy will join our assault on Earth. We will crush these humans with such overwhelming numbers that their superior technology will not matter. But as the Emperor sent out his calls for help, he did not realize that humanity had already begun the next phase of their campaign, while the galaxy focused on the dramatic victory at Kelm Prime. Human infiltration teams were preparing to strike at the heart of the Empire itself. The war that the Zephyrians had started was about to become something far more devastating than they could have imagined. Humanity had revealed their military capabilities, but they had not yet shown the galaxy their true capacity for strategic thinking and systematic warfare. Admiral Chen received Captain Vasquez's mission report with grim satisfaction. Phase 1 complete, she announced to the Solar Defense Command. Begin Phase 2 operations. Show them what human liberation looks like. General David Park stood before the holographic display showing the entire galaxy, watching as red dots marked Zahirian military positions across 47 star systems. Each dot represented a target that would be hit simultaneously in the largest coordinated military operation in galactic history. Operation Liberation Protocol is ready to begin, he announced to the assembled human commanders. 16 star systems, 43 military installations, and over 200 enemy fleets will be engaged within the next 6 hours. What the galaxy didn't understand was that humanity had been preparing for this moment for 50 years. While aliens viewed the destruction of the collection fleet and the victory at Kelm Prime as impressive but isolated events, they were actually part of a comprehensive military doctrine that no galactic species had ever conceived. Admiral Chen activated the communication link to all human fleets. All task forces, this is Phoenix Command, execute Liberation Protocol. Show them what systematic warfare looks like across the galaxy. Human forces emerged from hidden positions. Ships that had been disguised as asteroids revealed themselves near major Zahirian worlds. Stealth vessels that had been gathering intelligence for decades suddenly began transmitting override codes to enemy defense systems. Captain Rodriguez led the assault on the tri-hegemony, longtime allies of the Zirian Empire. The hegemony's crystalline cities had been considered impregnable for over 1,000 years, protected by energy shields that could deflect any known weapon. Beginning bombardment of shield generators. Rodriguez reported as his ships unleashed a new type of weapon. Instead of trying to break through the shields, human munitions were designed to overload the generating systems by feeding massive amounts of energy back into them. The crystalline defenders watched in horror as their perfect defenses not only failed but began tearing their own cities apart. The energy feedback created resonance patterns that shattered the crystal structures from within. Impossible, whispered High Christar Velter, watching his capital city collapse. Our defenses were mathematically perfect. No force in the universe could break them. Your Mathematics were based on conventional. Galactic warfare, replied Major Sarah. Kim, as human marines, stormed the crystal palace. We don't fight conventional wars. The speed and coordination of human attacks shocked every galactic civilization. While they had expected humans to focus on defending Earth, instead humanity had somehow launched simultaneous assaults on targets spread across thousands of light years on the water world of Aquatica. The Federation's underwater cities faced an enemy they had never imagined: human submersible craft designed using Earth's deep ocean technology moved through alien waters with ease. Commander James Walsh led the underwater assault teams. Remember, these aliens evolved in shallow seas with low pressure. Their equipment isn't designed for the crushing depths we're used to. The Aquatic Federation's defensive systems, evolved for fighting other water-dwelling species, were helpless against humans who regularly operated Earth's deep ocean trenches. Human pressure suits allowed Marines to function at depths that would crush alien bodies. President Coral Wave of the Aquatic Federation sent desperate messages to his allies: the humans fight in our deepest waters as if they were swimming in shallow pools. Their technology operates at pressures that should destroy any known equipment, but the most devastating aspect of human warfare was not their technology or their environmental advantages. It was their understanding of psychological warfare and their willingness to arm local populations against their oppressors. Dr. Amanda Foster had spent decades developing what became known as liberation tactics. Instead of simply conquering enemy worlds, human forces broadcast evidence of Zapierian atrocities to enslaved populations and provided weapons to resistance movements. The key to defeating an empire, she explained to the human command staff, is not to destroy their military forces, it's to make their subjects realize they don't need to obey. On the mining world of copper, home enslaved workers had served Zahirian masters for 3 centuries. They had never known freedom, never imagined resistance was possible. Then human ships arrived, not to conquer but to liberate. Attention, workers of copper home, broadcast Captain Lisa Martinez from her command ship. The Zafirian Empire has no legal authority over your world. You are free beings with the right to govern yourselves. We are transmitting weapon specifications and tactical manuals. Rise up and take what is rightfully yours. The rebellion that followed was swift and brutal. Workers who had been considered property suddenly had access to human-designed weapons and communication systems. The Zahirian overseers, vastly outnumbered and caught completely off guard, were overwhelmed. Within hours, similar uprisings erupted on dozens of worlds simultaneously. The Zapierian Empire, which had ruled through fear and overwhelming force, suddenly found itself fighting rebels on every front. Emperor Vexthal watched his empire crumble from his palace on the home world. Reports flooded in of defeated fleets, fallen strongholds, and successful rebellions. Each defeat seemed impossible, yet the evidence was undeniable. How can primitives coordinate attacks across the entire galaxy? He demanded of his remaining advisors. How do they have ships in systems they should never have reached? General Corvan, studying the tactical reports, finally understood what humanity had done. Your Majesty, these are not Primitives, they have been watching us. For decades, learning our weaknesses. Preparing for this exact scenario. That's impossible, Vexthal insisted. Our sensors would have detected their scout ships, not if their technology was specifically designed to avoid our detection methods, Corvan replied. Grimly, every battle shows the same pattern. They know our capabilities better than we know ourselves. They have studied our tactics, our psychology, our technology, and designed countermeasures for everything. The most terrifying realization came when they analyzed human communication patterns. Unlike galactic species who negotiated and debated before taking action, humans had clearly planned their entire campaign in advance. Every attack was perfectly timed and coordinated with military precision that no galactic civilization had ever achieved. On Earth, Dr. A. Webb was explaining the situation to government leaders. The galactic species evolved cooperation as their primary survival strategy, he said. They developed spaceflight through peaceful collaboration, not through military competition, and humans asked President Martinez, we evolved as predators on a hostile world, Webb replied. Every advancement in human history came through conflict, competition, and the need to survive. Against overwhelming odds, we didn't just develop better weapons, we developed better ways to think about warfare itself. The difference was becoming clear across the galaxy. While alien species fought according to established rules and traditional methods, humans approached each battle as a unique problem to be solved with maximum efficiency. Robotic assembly with their advanced artificial intelligences had been confident they could match human tactical thinking. They discovered that human creativity and adaptability were impossible to program or predict. Admiral Chen received status reports from across the galaxy. Trial hegemony surrendering, reported Captain Rodriguez. Aquatic Federation requesting terms, announced Commander Walsh. Copper Home and 17 other mining worlds now under local control, confirmed Captain Martinez. In less than 1 day, the Zephyrian Empire had lost a third of its territory and half of its military forces. Allies who had supported the Empire for centuries were either defeated, surrendering, or switching sides. The galaxy was learning what humanity meant by systematic warfare. It wasn't just about winning individual battles. It was about identifying every weakness in the enemy structure and attacking all of them simultaneously until the entire system collapsed. Emperor Vexthal faced a choice that no galactic ruler had ever confronted. He could continue fighting against an enemy who seemed to anticipate his every move, or he could try to negotiate with beings who had shown no interest in traditional diplomatic solutions. What do they want? He asked his advisors desperately. General Corvan looked at the latest human broadcasts. According to their communications, they want exactly what they said: the return of all captured humans and the complete elimination of all slavery operations. And if we refuse, based on current tactical projections, Your Majesty, complete military defeat within 72 hours. Emperor Vexthal made the decision that sealed his empire's fate, surrounded by reports of military defeats and allied defections. He chose pride over survival. Send word to every species in the galaxy, he commanded from his throne room. Any civilization that does not join our war against humanity, will be considered an enemy of the Empire. We will destroy these human invaders and any who support them. The proclamation backfired spectacularly. Species that had been neutral in the conflict suddenly found themselves forced to choose sides, and the choice was becoming obvious to anyone who studied the tactical situation. High Admiral Zark of the Hegemony Fleet watched his home world burn from his flagship's viewports. The crystalline cities that had stood for millennia were now rubble, destroyed in 6 hours by human forces who fought with terrifying efficiency. Send a message to the human fleet, he ordered his communications officer. Tell them the hegemony wishes to discuss terms for separate peace. Sir, his aide protested. The Emperor has forbidden any separate negotiations. The Emperor, Zarth replied grimly, is not the one watching his people die because of his arrogance. Across the galaxy, similar conversations were taking place on 100 different worlds. The Zirian Empire's demand for absolute loyalty was driving its allies directly into human hands. Captain Alina Vasquez received the hegemony's surrender request while coordinating the liberation of 3 more slave worlds. Dr. Foster, she contacted the xenopsychologist. We're getting surrender offers from former Imperial allies. How do we handle this? Dr. Foster had been studying the political structure of the galactic civilization for 30 years. The key is to offer them something the Empire never did. She replied, true autonomy. Don't make them our subjects. Help them become genuinely independent. This approach was revolutionary by galactic standards. For 1,000 years, the political structure had been based on empires, hegemonies, and federations where stronger species dominated weaker ones. The concept of genuine equality between different civilizations was virtually unknown. Admiral Chen announced humanity's terms to the galaxy. To all species currently allied with the Zephyrian Empire, you have the right to govern yourselves. Terran Commonwealth offers you a choice. Join us as equal partners, govern yourselves independently, or continue serving an empire that treats you as expendable resources. The response was immediate and overwhelming. The Crystalline Collective, the Aquatic Federation, and the Robotic Assembly all sent delegations seeking separate peace agreements. Even the insectoid hive minds who had served the Empire for 5 centuries began questioning their loyalty. Queen Mother Zixara of the hive minds faced a decision that challenged every instinct of her species. The hive had survived by serving stronger powers, never considering the possibility of independence. The humans offer us something our race has never known, she told her advisory swarm. They offer us the right to make our own choices without interference from any empire. Her military advisor, warrior Prime Clethon, was skeptical. How do we know they will not simply become new masters once the Zephyrians are defeated? Queen Mother Zix had studied the human broadcasts carefully because they are doing something no conquering species has ever done. They are giving weapons and support to former slaves and helping them establish their own governments. The evidence was undeniable. On every liberated world, humans were providing technical assistance and military support to help local populations establish self-governance. Instead of installing human administrators, they were helping former Slaves create their own political systems. Meanwhile, the military situation for the empire was becoming hopeless. General David Park's systematic campaign had reduced Zapperian military strength by 80% in 2 weeks. More importantly, the loss of Allied support had left the empire isolated and surrounded. Commander Lisa Torres led the assault on the Zion Naval Academy in the Riel system. The facility had trained imperial officers for 6 centuries and was considered the heart of their military tradition. Beginning orbital bombardment of military targets, Torres reported. Civilian areas are being evacuated under human protection. This distinction was crucial to humanity's strategy. While they ruthlessly destroyed military installations, they went to extraordinary lengths to protect civilian populations. Former enemy species were learning that humans made clear distinctions between combatants and non-combatants. Captain Michael Harrison, now commanding a full assault group, led the ground forces that captured the academy. Secure all training records and technological databases, he ordered his Marines. We need to understand their entire military structure. The information they recovered was devastating to imperial morale. Human intelligence had identified every weakness in Zapperian training methods, every flaw in their tactical doctrine, and every limitation of their technology. Dr. Webb analyzed the captured data with growing understanding. They never developed adaptive tactics, he reported to Admiral Chen. Their entire military philosophy is based on overwhelming force applied through established procedures. They literally don't know how to improvise, which explains why they keep trying the same failed strategies. Chen replied, they're programmed for success through superior numbers and technology, not through tactical innovation. The psychological impact on imperial forces was even more damaging than the military defeats. For 1,000 years, the Zahirian Empire had never faced a peer competitor. The idea that they could be outfought by any species was simply incomprehensible to most imperial citizens. On the Zion home world, civilian populations watched the war reports with growing panic. Their mighty empire, which had seemed eternal and unbeatable, was collapsing with shocking speed. How can primitives from a single world defeat our entire civilization? Demanded Senator Cravex during an emergency session of the Imperial Council. General Corvan, now the only military leader willing to speak honestly to the civilian government, provided the brutal truth: they are not primitives, they are a warrior species that has been preparing for this conflict longer than most of our officers have been alive. Emperor Vexthur refused to accept reality. Mobilize the reserve fleets, he commanded. Conscript civilian vessels. Use slave soldiers if necessary. We will not be defeated by a single world of upstart mammals. His final desperate order revealed the true nature of the Zapperian Empire. Rather than protecting their citizens, they were willing to sacrifice them to maintain power. This decision drove the last remaining allies away from imperial support. The Aquatic Federation formally withdrew from the empire after Vexthal ordered their civilian transport vessels to be converted into military craft. We will not sacrifice our children for the Emperor's pride, announced President Coral Wave. The robotic assembly followed with a devastating analysis. Probability of Imperial victory has decreased to 0.00003%. Their collective intelligence announced continued alliance is mathematically illogical. Even the most loyal Imperial species began to reconsider their positions. The crystalline collective, which had served the Empire since its founding, watched their home world burn because of Vexthal's refusal to negotiate. High Crystar sent a secret message to Captain Rodriguez. Our people have served the Empire faithfully for 800 years. We ask only for the chance to survive and govern ourselves. The message was broadcast across all human frequencies, along with Rodriguez's response. The crystalline collective will be granted full autonomy within the Terran Commonwealth. Your people will govern themselves according to your own laws and customs. We seek partners, not subjects. This exchange was heard throughout the galaxy. Species that had never imagined freedom from Imperial control suddenly realized that an alternative existed. Within 24 hours, 43 different civilizations had requested terms for joining the human-led coalition. The thousand-year-old Zethurian Empire was dissolving as former subjects realized they no longer needed to serve distant masters. Emperor Vexthal faced the final collapse of his power. His military was destroyed, his allies had abandoned him, and his own people were beginning to question his authority. Perhaps, suggested his last remaining advisor, it is time to consider surrender terms. Vexthal's response sealed his fate and that of his empire. The empire does not surrender to slaves. He declared, if we cannot rule the galaxy, then we will ensure no one can. His decision to fight to the bitter end would have consequences that reached far beyond the military campaign. Humanity was about to learn that some enemies prefer destruction to defeat. The final battle for the Zahirian home world lasted 3 hours. Emperor Vexthal's last desperate gambit involved deploying weapons of mass destruction against his own population centers, hoping to deny humanity the prize of conquest. Admiral Chen watched the tactical display with cold anger as reports came in of Zion forces turning their weapons on civilian targets. All units priority override, protect civilian populations at all costs, stop those weapons from reaching populated areas. Human ships moved with unprecedented speed to intercept the Imperial death squads. Captain Elena Vasquez led a squadron of fighters directly into the atmosphere of the Zirian capital world, engaging enemy forces in combat above major cities. This is Falcon leader Vasquez reported as her fighters destroyed a Zephyrian bomber formation. Enemy weapons neutralized. Civilian areas are secure. On the ground, human marines fought through the Imperial Palace complex with systematic precision. They had studied the building's layout for decades, knew every defensive position, and had planned countermeasures for every possible resistance strategy. Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Kim led the assault team that finally cornered Emperor Vexthal in his throne room. The alien ruler stood defiant among the bodies of his personal guard, still believing that his imperial dignity would protect him. I am Emperor of the galaxy, he declared as human soldiers surrounded him. You cannot treat me as a common criminal. You are a war criminal, Kim replied. Simply, you attempted genocide against your own people rather than accept defeat. Your imperial titles mean nothing now. Vexthal was taken into custody along with his surviving government officials. The capture was broadcast live across the galaxy, marking the official end of the 1,000-year-old Zahirian Empire. Commander Lisa Torres was appointed military governor of the former imperial capital. Her first act was to open the imperial archives to public examination, revealing centuries of atrocities that had been hidden from galactic knowledge. Citizens of all species, Torres announced in her inaugural address, "You have the right to know what was done in your names. The imperial records will be made available to every civilization. Judge for yourselves whether this system deserves to continue." The revelations were staggering. The Empire had systematically enslaved over 200 species, conducted biological experiments on sentient beings, and destroyed entire civilizations that refused to submit. What galactic citizens had believed was a benevolent empire was revealed to be a system of organized oppression. Dr. Amanda Foster worked with liberated populations to establish what became known as the Species Liberation Protocol. Instead of replacing the empire with human rule, the protocol helped each species develop their own governmental systems based on their unique cultural needs. Freedom cannot be imposed, Foster explained to the Galactic Reconstruction Council. Each species must discover their own path to self-governance. Our role is to provide support and protection, not to make decisions for others. This approach was revolutionary. By galactic standards, for millennia, political power had flowed from strong species to weak ones with no consideration for genuine consent or self-determination. The trial of Emperor Vexthal became a defining moment for the new galactic order. Representatives from every known species attended the proceedings, which were broadcast to every world in real time. Admiral Chen served as the primary prosecutor, reading charges that had never been formally recognized in galactic law: crimes against sentience, systematic enslavement of intelligent species, genocide, and the attempted destruction of civilian populations. Vexthal's defense relied on traditional imperial authority. "I acted within my legal rights as emperor," he insisted. The empire's authority over its subjects was absolute and granted by ancient law. Ancient laws created without the consent of those they governed, Chen replied. Laws that recognize some beings as property and others as masters. The galaxy rejects that authority. The trial lasted 2 weeks and included testimony from representatives of dozens of formerly enslaved species. Each account revealed new horrors of imperial rule and strengthened the case for fundamental change in galactic governance. Queen Mother Ixara of the Hiveminds provided some of the most damaging testimony. For 5 centuries, my people served the empire because we believed we had no choice. We were told that only the strong could rule, that only submission could bring peace. We now understand that we were taught to collaborate in our own oppression. The verdict was unanimous. Representatives of 87 species voted to find Emperor Vexthal guilty of all charges. The sentence was execution, carried out publicly as a symbol that no being was above accountability for their actions. Admiral Chen read the final judgment. Emperor Vexthal, you created a system based on the principle that some beings exist only to serve others. You treated entire species as property and responded to resistance with genocide. The galaxy has judged you and found you unfit to exist among civilized beings. The execution was broadcast to every world, marking the symbolic end of imperial rule and the beginning of a new era based on equality and self-determination. 3 years after the initial Zephyrian proclamation, the galaxy was unrecognizable. The Terran Commonwealth had grown to include 47 species as equal partners, while another 33 civilizations had chosen complete independence with human protection guarantees. Dr. Foster's liberation protocols had succeeded beyond all expectations. Former slave species were developing their own technologies, exploring their own star systems, and creating governmental systems that reflected their unique values and needs. On New Geneva Station, humanity's first major diplomatic facility outside the Sol system, children of dozens of species learned together in integrated schools. The sight of young crystalline beings playing with human children while aquatic juveniles swam in specially designed pools represented something the galaxy had never seen: true cooperation between equals. Admiral Chen, now serving as Earth's first galactic ambassador, watched the children play from her office window. The scene reminded her of why humanity had fought so hard for this new order. Admiral, her aide announced, the Andorian Federation has requested membership in the Commonwealth. They're the last major civilization to join our alliance. Chen nodded with satisfaction. Send them our standard terms: full autonomy, mutual defense agreement, and equal representation in the Commonwealth Council. No species rules over any other. Transformation went deeper than politics. The concept of freedom had spread throughout galactic civilization like wildfire among populations that had never imagined alternatives to imperial rule. On the former mining world of Copper Home, now called Freedom's Dawn, by its inhabitants, former slaves had established a democratic government and were developing their own space program. They were no longer just workers for distant masters, but explorers reaching for their own stars. President Kth Vor, a former slave who now led his planet's government, spoke at the first Galactic Freedom Day celebration. We were told that some beings were born to serve and others to command. Humanity showed us that this was a lie. We are all born to be free. The military situation had stabilized into something unique in galactic history: a voluntary alliance where members joined because they wanted protection and partnership, not because they feared conquest. Captain Michael Harrison, now Admiral Harrison and commander of the Commonwealth Defense Force, reviewed the strategic situation with satisfaction. No empire has risen to challenge the new order, he reported to the Defense Council. Most former imperial systems have chosen democracy over dictatorship. And those that haven't, asked Admiral Chen, they've learned that the Commonwealth will not tolerate slavery or oppression. Harrison replied. 3. Attempts to re-establish imperial-style governments have been stopped by Commonwealth intervention forces. The message was clear throughout the galaxy: the age of empires was over. Any attempt to reduce sentient beings to property would face the combined might of free species united in defense of liberty. Dr. Webb, now in his 70s, spent his time documenting the transformation of galactic civilization. In 3 years he wrote in his memoirs, humanity accomplished something that no species had ever attempted, the liberation of an entire galaxy from systemic oppression. The final scene took place on Earth, where Admiral Chen stood in the same underground facility where Dr. Martinez had first detected the Zahirian classification of humanity as slaves. The monitoring station now served as a museum, preserving the moment when everything changed. They wanted slaves, Chen reflected, speaking to the gathered dignitaries. From across the galaxy, they thought we were primitive and weak, suitable only for manual labor under imperial control. She paused, looking out at representatives of dozens of species who now stood as free beings rather than imperial subjects. Instead, they taught us that we were liberators. They showed us a galaxy where billions of intelligent beings lived without freedom, without choice, without hope of anything better. They forced us to choose between submitting to oppression or fighting to end it for everyone. The memorial plaque installed in the facility bore a simple inscription in hundreds of languages, in memory of every being who suffered under imperial rule and in honor of those who proved that freedom is worth any sacrifice. The Zahirian Empire's greatest mistake had not been underestimating human technology or military capability. Their fatal error had been underestimating what humans would do to anyone who threatened their freedom, and by extension the freedom of every sentient being in the galaxy. The age of empires was over. The age of freedom had begun.